let's start this off on a positive note. There is hope. Spring is in the air, and it seems like some of the pandemic is starting to abate just a little bit. Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. We have a request. I've got stuck on a couple of Mitchells lately, and somebody wrote me a note, one of our viewers, and said, do you have the 324? Could you show me how to take it apart? And can you also show me about the bail wire in that one? And it just so happens I had one of these in my shop, so here we go. The 324, it's made in France. Got a nice reel. Somewhat similar to the others, but what the heck. This one isn't working with the bail trip, so we might as well show you how to fix a bail and maybe just replace it with this rotor. We'll go see. But at any rate, let's start by taking it apart for the service. You can do that a couple of ways. One of the things you do is you want to remove that spool. You'll see that we have a cover here for the trip. That's probably what's going on here. We probably got all junked up and it's not working. So we'll try to free that up as part of this deal. You can see that there's some corrosion on the counterweight and the like. This is a little shield underneath here. It holds the lever that moves back and forth and sits in this little slot when it locks, but it looks like it's probably frozen with some stuff. Whatever stuff is, that must be a technical term, right? This is what that will look like from the inside. There's a little spring release and a trip lever. I'm pretty sure that that slide is what's going wrong there. Okay, little screw on the back side here. Some of them have might have a bigger screw. That's all right. You have one little screw here. Just remove that, and you'll notice a couple of things. I was putting on a protective glove. I have a parts tray. I put all my pieces and parts in there, and that helps me to relocate them when I go to reassemble. I take the side plate off now simply by pulling down, and whoa, wowie, golly gee whiz, look at all of that. There is just a bunch of stuff in this that somebody got a little aggressive when they were lubing this one up for sure. So looks like we got to do a little cleaning here as well. So I'm just going to grab a paper towel so I have a place to put all of this stuff. And I'm just going to start with a screwdriver essentially and just kind of get the chunks out of the way. I don't know what this stuff is. It could be real grease, but that's certainly a reason why I wear this protective glove on my hand, because not only do you have a lot of grease and junk in this one, but you don't know what's inside that grease. I could have picked up a lot of contaminants along the way, and certainly don't want to go crazy here getting that all over my hands if I don't know what it is. So it looks like it's relatively fresh. This one wasn't operating too smoothly. This would be an example why it wouldn't be that way. But the more you can scrape out and not touch, the less you have in terms of doing the laundry, if you will. So I'll just move that down a little bit there. Alright, we probably got enough of that out of there that I can at least pull some of this stuff off and get on with a service here. I'm just going to put that right into a trash bin there, and we'll go a little bit better in terms of the cleanup. There's a pin here. This pin needs to be pulled in order to remove the axle. It's trying to avoid this stuff. There you go. That's your pin that holds the axle shaft in place. Notice that there's two lobes on this. Kind of hard to see with all the grease, but notice that there's a lobe structure here, that this isn't an equal kind of a thing, and that the structure on the lobe has the high point up top, not below. So when you go to reinstall, that's going to be important. If you don't put it in that way, it's going to have a limited throw. So once you pull that pin out, you can remove the axle shaft. This is what I mean. It's very easy to flip that around and do it that way, and that would be incorrect. So make sure that you note it. How do you make sure that you note it? Well, I've always given the advice to take pictures along the way as you disassemble. If you don't know the fishing reel at all, by all means take the pictures. That way you you can have a reference point there if you get stuck. And it's too easy to get stuck. It's too easy to just trust our memory that we're going to remember that. And in this case, as I mentioned, the lobe part belongs up top. Do not install it that way. Easy enough to do. Okay, that takes care of the first part of this. Now we have access to this, which is failing. So let's go ahead and take this is a Mitchell tool, but it's nothing more than a 12 millimeter socket. You can use a deep socket. Don't have to use this tool to get it off. I just find this very convenient. And remove the nut that's holding the rotor on. And we have this little hole down here. Kind of hard to see. But this is undoubtedly why that bail is failing. So we're just going to load that up with WD-40 or penetrating oil. In this case, it's CRC Power Lube. And we're just going to kind of work that in and out there. But I'm going to take that rotor off. There's a little clip here. And we can push down then. We should be able to push down. So there's a little washer here. There you go. Pushing down, there was a little pinion washer that was getting trapped. Take the pinion washer out. Put it on the pinion gear so you remember where it came from. Put those both into the part tray. And then we can loosen the handle by turning it clockwise. Pull the little cap off that belongs on that behind that. And we can push the main gear through. Getting a little stuck in there. It's just going to use a pin, use a punch, use something, screwdriver, push it through, what have you. And then we want to do that because we know we still got junk behind there in the grease section. Notice where those springs are. It's another good place to take a look. I'm not going to touch that anti-reverse dog, but if you needed to, you know where it is by taking a picture. And there's two springs actually on this. There's one that's riding on the side here on the trip lever mechanism, and then there's another one that rides into and behind the hook up there on the body. You just want to make sure that you note that, so that in the event that you have an oops moment and something goes flying, that you know where that is. Okay. You can probably just finish that off a little bit with some WD-40 or penetrating oil, like this CRC Power Lube. Somebody will probably get mad at me for calling one the other, but so be it. Okay, so that cleans the case up then. Now we want to clean that main gear up, because we still got a lot of that residual junk on there, the old grease. Quite possibly this is Mitchell grease. I know the Mitchell grease did come in that type of coloring. I can't say with certain. I can say for certain is we've got a little bit of junk and buildup on that, so I'm going to go grab a piece of steel wool. I'm using 4-0 steel wool. It's the finest of the steel wools. It's not very coarse at all, but it does work well when you're trying to remove surface rust and just caked on junk and the like. So you can see that smoothed that up already. You're never going to polish it because some of that just tends to be tarnishing to it, but just to the best you can, get that cleaned up. That feels nice and smooth now. I'm using cotton swabs to clean the channels on that main gear. Checking the teeth. I want to make sure all those teeth are in nice condition. You can use a brush. In this case, this is a little wire brush. You can use a fabric brush. You can use a toothbrush. Try and clear those channels out, make sure that there's nothing in there that's all jammed up or not. In this case, they seem to be pretty good. And then we can just go ahead and reinstall this. I'm going to take fishing reel grease. In this case, it's Penn's Precision Reel Grease. Just put a little light coating on there. Anything more is just going to build up. We should be able to reinstall the main gear just by simply slipping that in. There's a little bit of accumulated dirt or something on the cap, so we can take our time to clean that cap off while we're at it. I just moved this to make sure that the gear was set with that dog. Again, there's a little bit of stuff behind the where that cap lays, probably just a lifetime's worth of accumulated dust and debris. We'll put that cap on. Now this threads reverse, so counterclockwise. And our main gear is back playing and our anti-reverse is working. Okay, this was pretty clean. There's a little bit more left here to do, so let's do that. I go through the pinion gear as well. Now remember, we have this little washer. There's a, we're going to have to slide that washer into the top. I know this is away from the camera. Let's put it onto the camera. You want to slide it in this way because it's going to sit behind the teeth, and as we found out, you can't pull it out that way. Going to get that brush again. I put a little bit of grease onto the pinion gear shaft, a little bit of grease into the teeth of it. Then we're just going to insert it simply by pushing it in the way it came out. All right, so now we got this. We have this problem here with the bail. So let's try and take that apart. This would be good because I had a question from one of our viewers that said, how do you fix the bail wire? And I was going to show you on the other one, but we've got a stuck release mechanism here, so we're going to do that. I always take the non-spring side off first. Then looking through the case, there's actually two slots on this particular case. I guess it's if it's lefty or righty. On the one that's backside here, there's no tag. On the one where it sits, where it should work, that's the tag end of the spring. So you want to make sure you notice what side of the case that tag spring comes out of. And we're going to remove this. And we just did the bail spring on the 308, and I guess that's how I got asked on this one. But I'm going to remove this completely now. So you can see which side of the reel the spring has the tag to, and it's right next to this stop block, in case you're getting confused. And we noticed on the other one where that's at. Quick little tune-up here on the grit behind there. There's a little bit of buildup of accumulation, so again, we'll take that steel wool. We'll come in and try and clean that up as best we can. It looks like some oxidation on it or something. Will be good. So these reels were nice reels. They weren't as popular as the 300, but they served their purpose. Okay, now we're kind of stuck with this one. It's not moving. And we're going to want to try and figure that out. We're going to want to push in and out and just get it to the point where we can get it moving again. And there's a buildup here, right? There's a buildup of salt and the like. And that's what's kind of causing this problem. There we go. We're starting to get it to move. So I have it out there. I'm going to grab a little file, if I can find my little file. Try and file down some of the corrosion that's on there. That's what's why it's not retreating. I'm going to spray it down again with the WD-40. Most of the time, this is just a repetitive process, in and out, in and out. And eventually you can get it working again. Okay, so I wasn't happy with the performance of this this piece, even though I had hit it a lot with the WD-40, it just wasn't loosening up. So I decided to take the assembly out, and I'll show you a little fun thing with this one now. So I got this off. I took my file. I filed off this salt and the debris all around this thing to make it work better. Cleaned out the channel in here. Cleaned out the channel around this little carrier, and we should be able to go reinstall this now. So here's the fun part of the reinstall, the things you learn over time. So I'm going to put just a light coating of grease, and I mean light on this because I know that we had this build up before, so you don't want to give too much grease so that it acts like a glue or anything. Just enough that it's a coating there in that channel. I'm going to pull that excess grease out of the channel now. We're going to take that clip, a little angle, and then you figure out, how do I get that darn spring in there? This is almost a mind puzzle, if you will, but that's why the hole is in that clip. You're going to insert the front of that spring, get it down below that clip. You're going to push down on it until this back end clears the hole, and then you're going to press down. And if you can't see it on the video, I'm going to apologize right up front, because not an easy thing to do, and springs tend to flip. These are the things you do during pandemics. You go and try and figure out what craziness can you get involved in here. I'm still trying to push it down all the way to make sure that we have the spring set without it shooting out at me here. None of us like springs, so this almost looks like a doctor kind of doing something here. I still don't have it right. Just trying to get it there we go. Okay, I think we pretty much have it now. So there you go. You'll see the spring in the carrier, and that enables you, when you push in, it's going to, the bail is going to hold it, and then it should pop out. There you go. Now we got this thing doing the right thing. Somewhat mission accomplished there. So there you go. Okay, now that we have this working, it's time to reset the bail, and bail resets are always fun. Okay, we're going to try this again, because when I was showing it on the video the first time, I didn't get the carrier in frame while I was doing this. So let's try this again. Flat tab goes into the carrier on the far side, and you have to clear this. That's the big issue with setting this. So there's no real easy way to do this, but if you can come underneath, that generally is a good way to do that. You want to totally relax the bail arm. So if the bail arm is that way, you want it all the way over here to pick up that little tab from the spring and insert it into the hole in the bail arm. There we go, we got that. Yep, we have that. And then you want to rotate that around to where your bail arm clears the trip lever. And then this is always the fun part of the Mitchell bail assemblies. You have to keep pressure on the spring while you align the hole, and then you need to get the screw started, and this takes some hand strength. And this is probably why I went off camera with the other one, because it's not an easy thing to do. There we go, I got it started. And then you can tighten down your screw. Now that screw's got a shoulder on it, so make sure you clear the bail assembly with it. And that's how it sits now. So you have the arm is resting on the other side of the trip lever, the screw is in, then you can come over and tighten the other side of the bail with the screw there. And then you'll be able to bring the bail around, it'll be set, and if you trip from underneath, I'm going to whack my finger with this, I'm sure, but trip from underneath, and that trips your bail lever back. Alright, so we're going to patch this back into the video. Again, I apologize if we've got that a little bit off, but that's how you do it. So I'm going to just take an extra minute for you here now. So that trip lever gets in the way. You need to pull the trip lever back. You insert the spring into the carrier. Flat side is on the top right hand side of this. You relax the bail completely. You bring it all the way over there. Pick up that little hole, and then you rotate that around, and tighten, you hold it so you have the screw centered, and then tighten the screw down. So I hope that's helped, and I hope I'm on camera with that. So we did a whole lot more with this than just simply rebuilding this reel. And now with that trip again, just smashed my finger here, but that's going to work nicely. We're going to go grab the bottom of the body then. Here's where that ramp is going to ride, so that thing is going to come up on the inside track, and that's what's going to pull it in. So let's go ahead and put this back together then. Oops, wrong body. I had another one here because I took this off to show you the bail, but we wound up doing this one anyway. Alright, I'm going to just grease the bottom of this then. Get some grease in the teeth. I'm going to get some on the inside here because that's where that eccentric block is going to work. We already did the pinion gear, so let's go ahead and put that in. Just notice there's a little junk on the inside track here. Let's get that off. And put the rotor back on. Get that. There's a tie down inside here on the rotor, so let's make sure we put that on there. And that sits as a keyway kind of a deal. It also has a little oblong to it, so let's make sure we get that right. There we go. Now we're on with that. Then this one's going to go on holding down the spring assembly like that. Oops. And notice that it's offset. It's going to come off of a hump, so get the offset the right way. And we'll grab that nut and try and get that started. You may have to push up on the pinion below there. Yeah, pretty sure that's exactly what I got to do here. Tighten that down with that Mitchell key. I'm going to give it a quick turn to make sure that the handle's on nice and tight there. Okay, now we can bring that axle shaft down. I'm going to do the same thing I did here with the other stuff. There is some dried glue and junk, so let's clean that up. Put a little coat of light grease on this. Slide that through the pinion gear then. With that cross block, remember that the high side goes up. Again, all important stuff to remember when you take a reel off, all the reason to take pictures along the way. That block belongs this way then. I'm going to line the hole of the axle shaft with that. I'm going to find that pin. Place that pin in here. And we should be cranking now. Oh, look at this, huh? What a difference that makes. And even going to be more impressive when that bail works. So we've cleaned off the case here. There's nothing that you need to lube on the case. This little stud goes inside the assembly there like that. Simple screw to the outside. Tighten that screw all the way in. And I can't see the weight this one go back into action. It's a fun little reel. It's not quite the Mitchell 300, but you know what? It's got a lot of fishing left in it. So we're all tight there. Let's grab the spool, put that on top. Look at that. Wow. Now, the moment of truth. We have a bail. Okay. Wow. That was fun. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you like it, please indicate that. If you have comments about it, please leave comments. If you have questions in general about fishing reel repair, even if it's not about this particular Mitchell 324 reel, please ask them. I try to respond to all of them. If you have a reel that you're a little intimidated by and you don't want to work on it yourself and you would like it repaired or tuned up, drop me a note to my email, which is on my business card at the end of this, and I'll be happy to work with you to tune that reel up for you. So with that, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Thank you for watching.